Just want to begin by reminding everybody, please turn off your phone. You can turn on airplane mode.
Next time I'll
You can turn it on silent. You can turn it off. Whatever will make it that it won't go off during our program this afternoon would be greatly
Watch your step.
appreciated. I just want to remind everybody, because we are still in the month of Nisan. First of all, this is not a funeral. Okay? That's number one. Number two, with respect to the month of Nisan, we don't say the Kamal Rachmim, so we're not going to do that as well. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh, and what's going to be taking place today is not your traditional line of hespedin or typical Jewish eulogy, in the sense that what a hesped is supposed to be is an opportunity for considerable reflection, and it's meant to invoke a sense of mourning, a sense of crying that typically comes at a funeral. Now, it's not to say that we aren't sad over the loss of our dear friend Bob Torgow. We are, and that's why there is such a beautiful outpouring of love here this afternoon. But it means that in the speeches which you'll hear, they're meant to invoke a smile, wonderful thoughts, wonderful feelings about Bob Torgow. We have a number of speakers this afternoon. I'm not going to introduce all of them, but I am going to introduce the first one. Okay, of late, Bob had spent a lot more time, especially on Shabbos, with the youth of the shul. Some people who are relatively new in the shul told me they didn't know who Bob was. And I said it makes sense, because if you came Shabbos morning, he was never here. He was davening with the youth. So if you're relatively new here, you didn't see Bob. If you davened in the main shul, you saw him in the youth. As a matter of fact, a lot of the kids, some of whom are not in town, I know some are actually in Washington living, were distraught over Bob's passing. And to represent them, probably the youth in the shul who knew him the longest because of the special relationship that Bob Torgow had with the Rosen family. So representing himself, and not completely representing his family, because his father's going to speak soon as well, but representing the youth of the shul, I call Michael Rosen to speak about Bob.
Oh my God.
I would like to thank Rabbi Billet for giving me this opportunity to say a few words about Bob Torgow on behalf of all the kids who attend the teen union, which was Bob's meeting. Bob was a very caring and loving person to everyone around him. Bob always knew how to connect with kids and came to the teen union every week he could and always enjoyed himself. Even when he was weak due to his illness, he still made an amazing effort to dog with us up until about a month ago. He had an especially great connection with me and my entire family, and was always such a friendly person towards me and my siblings. Really, it was very much like having an extra grandparent in town, as he took such interest in everything that was going on in our lives. Whether it was taking us out to dinner without our parents, or just playing a board game with us at his house, Bob always knew the right thing to do to make us feel at home and comfortable. We shall all miss his brownies and vanilla ice cream at our house, which we look so forward to every time he ate with us. I feel very fortunate to have had Bob in my life, and it was so nice to have someone like that still be like one of the kids at heart, which is the way he lived his life. Rest in peace, Bob. We shall miss you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I wasn't planning to give a long speech today, and I'm not, but I just want to echo what Michael said. It's no secret that for all the time that Bob knew me, he always viewed me as one of the kids, and he told me that many times. Bob had a few girlfriends in my family, starting with my wife, but even more so with my daughters, of course, and the one he knew the longest who's here. And it always made me a little jealous, because I never viewed any of them as my girlfriend, but Bob had his way. And my wife would always say about Bob, about the people of his generation. She said, you got to get to talk to them. You have to hear just the insights about life, because the more people have experience, and Bob was certainly a senior member here, and by senior I mean one of the oldest people in the shul, the more they can share, the more you can learn from them. So to that credit, I certainly am grateful and appreciative to Bob as well for the things which I learned from him. I'm going to now ask Marlene White to share a few words.
Well, I think we all know that Bob was just a kid at heart. He just was as young as he could be. He loved tennis. I would call him sometimes at 9 in the morning when he was already down here. We were still in Michigan. And he'd say, oh, I just got off the tennis court. It's so beautiful. Come on down. You know, he just loved life. He loved tennis. He actually started coaching the day school tennis team when he was in his 70s. He loved being around kids because inside he really was a kid. And if there is a woman in this room who is not one of Bob's girlfriends, you really didn't know him. He just had, even his grandson said at the funeral, probably had a million girlfriends, but his last girlfriend directly was very devoted to him. I met Bob and Bonnie years ago. Bob married Bonnie when she was alone with 3 little kids. He raised these kids to be pillars of the Detroit community. He was extremely devoted to them. And we went away with Bob and Bonnie one Pesach quite a few years ago. And people saw the name Torgow, and they literally came to our table because they had either known Gary or one of the Torgow daughters that he raised as his own. And he shut such knackers from this. He was just a really good guy.
Very special.
Very special guy, a lover, lived life like he was young, loved going out, loved being around people. I think the worst thing for God would be to have to spend time by himself. He just was a ray of sunshine in everyone's life.
Aaron Lehman, next door neighbor for a number of years.
I first had the privilege of meeting Bob at the Chabad after he moved from down south Florida up to here. He, at that time, was residing at Indian Spring, and when I told him, we used to sit next to each other in shul at Chabad. When I told him about a house that was becoming available in our development next door to me, he looked at it, he made a bid, he became my next door neighbor. It's been a delightful period of time that we had the privilege of knowing him. He followed us primarily because of his relationship with the Frances family when we formed the shul on Shekheset, and he was very instrumental in bringing his buddy Lamb, Manny Lamb, to the community, to our community on Shekheset. Manny Lamb was also instrumental in helping us with relationships with YU, and it was a very important relationship through the efforts of Bob. Bob, we had many conversations. We all know of his love for people, young ladies, as well as other people. It was a sincere feeling that he had for these people. There's nothing phony about Bob. In all the years that I've known him, even though we didn't agree on everything, we never had a fight. That's saying a lot. So never saw him raise it or hear him raise his voice, except on a tennis court sometimes in his enthusiasm for the game. He always spoke extremely highly of people. He didn't knock down people. He especially was fond of his immediate family, his children, his grandchildren, and especially the great-grandchildren that came along in later years of his life. I had the privilege of saying goodbye, the last one going to the beach to say goodbye. I gave him a bracha, and he knew then, we had a few-minute conversation, he knew that he's not coming back. We will sorely miss Bob.
Beautiful.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Bob Torgow, who's not here.
Oh, okay, good.
Actually,
I'll
I'm going to
announce it.
read.
Okay, Malka Henlish had thoughts what she wanted to share. She's not here. Esther Lena is going to share Malka's words.
Unaccustomed as I am to reading a speech, you'll have to bear with me, because I just found out literally 2 minutes ago that I'm reading this. It's only right to talk about our friend Bob, of Hashalom and Yeshua of Anshe Chesed, since he actually epitomized the word chesed in his friendship. It's easy to talk about him as he remains front and center, and we can hold on to his spiritual essence together. This was a man who helped make all newcomers feel special and welcome. He was always so eager to make your life joyful, better and cared about. He wants to get to know about you as much as possible. What would he say? What activity do you want to do? What do you like? It's so wonderful to have you here in Boynton Beach, and I'm so lucky to know you. Do you want to play tennis? No problem, I'll teach you. Go out to eat? If one of us could not do or play an activity, let's go see a show, and he would immediately find a show and take care of the tickets or logistics in general. The calls would come if we were up north to check that all was okay. If life presented us with some challenges, Bob would offer to help in so many capacities. He would always ask, how's my boy David? Always wanting to add quality to someone else's life. Shul was so important to him, and always asking if he'll see me in shul. He never kept anyone waiting, and if Bob said he would do something, you never had to wait. He would always follow through before you even thought about it. He jumped at the chance to make you happy, and he would always judge everyone in a sympathetic and understanding manner. Bob was an amazing man who never exhibited any pettiness. He greeted everyone with a Hanan Yakshar, always with a beautiful smile, always making that person feel they are so very special, because he did regard his many friends as unique sparks of beautiful souls. His exuberance for life and doing the right thing was so amazing that I can only imagine the happiness he's currently bringing to the heavens. Bob Torgow came over to us in shul on our first Shabbat in town, and instantly entered our lives and hearts as a dear friend, and that's where he'll remain for the rest of our lives. David and I had the blessed to spend time with him just a few weeks ago, and I feel blessed to have had this time with this special man and his Dorothy. We will always remember and cherish the time we spent together with honor and respect. Baruch Yonah ben Yosef, and ask forgiveness for anything said or not said, performed or not performed. We will always miss you.
Marty Weinstock, friend of longest time friend? Longest time friend. I don't use the word oldest. Longest.
I went to a public speaker at Bob Torgow, and I was friends for over 75 years. We've been friends for over 75 years. When I say friends, he was a real friend. He wasn't an acquaintance, he was a friend. And all these years, like you said, I've never had an argument in 75 years. I used to do business with him, when he was in business, we did business with him, and we've always been friends. I think stuff Bob, like, when we were kids, we used to go to yeshiva, we would do yeshiva together. And I think stuff Bob and Heidi. And his last girlfriend, Dorothy, was my first girlfriend. what work is there, everything's been said by Bob Torgow, as you can see. And I live here every time Bob Torgow. We came to visit him one day, right in front of his house. I went to see his house, and I had no intention of buying a house here. We in Florida, I never looked at another house, and she talked to me for so long, she talked to me, I bought a house here, I bought a house. I never looked at another house. I bought the first house I saw, and the second house was Shabbos Gate. And Bob would pick me up every Shabbos at 10 to 9, and we'd go to shul together. But we, even in the city, we were always, every week we would see each other a couple times a week. And like I said, there's not much more you can say about him, but everything was good. He's just a good person, and he was a friend. He was your friend, he was your friend. And we, have a lot of friends like him that could be an important thing. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Joel Roth. Joel Roth has been a very close friend of Bob's, especially in the later years here, to share some thoughts.
Bob was a very special friend to myself and to Yael. He was always basically concerned about our welfare and our health. From the day we met, we forged a relationship, and basically it just grew stronger as time went on. I used to have to daven upstairs in isolation. When I would finish davening, I would come downstairs. Bob would always be waiting for me with this smile. After a couple of weeks, I got a little nervous. When I realized he wasn't smiling at me, he was smiling at the women coming down. Anyway, he was always concerned. When I had to go to Tampa or go to local doctors, he always texted me or called me and said, "What did the doctor say?" Depending upon whether I had a morning appointment or not. If it's a morning appointment, I said, the doctor said, "Good morning." If it was afternoon, he said, "Good afternoon." At the end, they both said, "See you next month." What happened in between, I don't recollect. I just wanted to get out, and that was it. But he used to walk, we used to meet Shabbos morning at 8:30, and we used to walk to shul. Until I started going to Ashkenazi Minyan, and he would tell Yael I will meet her at 8:30 in the morning, because he didn't want her to walk herself after the knee surgery. So he has been there for us. I can remember always, we had lunch together on a regular basis, so he always had this gleam in his eye. That's one thing I will never forget, that devilish look. And more important, I will always remember him as a true friend.
Thank you. It's worth acknowledging as well, Joel hinted to it, but Yael's involvement with Bob's health and Bob's care as a friend more than anything else. I think Yael, you're probably the only person who can tell Bob what to do, if I'm not mistaken, right? Right. He's a man who walked with the beat of his own drum in the ways which we've heard, but when it came to his health, Yael was on top of it in a way which I'm sure was very helpful, especially over the last few months. And of course, I'm also grateful for your keeping me informed, because I couldn't always get through to Bob, but I am grateful for the connection which you helped achieve there. I think we have one more speaker, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe so, if I got all the names right, and that's going to be Adam Rosen. Adam is also known Bob for, I imagine, just the time you're here, right? Yeah. Just the time that you shared in Boynton Beach, and Adam will regale us with some of the wonderful stories of Bob and his relationship with the Roses.
So we first met the Torgows when we arrived in Boynton Beach in 2004, 2004-05. And the thing that immediately stood out to us more than anything was his genuine interest and concern about everything to do with our then first two children. Jennifer came along in 06. Bob and Bonnie, Aleinu Shalom, were two of the original 17 families that formed this shul. And Bob showed up at the very first minyan that we ever had, and at all of the first minyanim when we were going door to door, house to house for the almost first year. And there used to be a concern among some of the younger families then that of our more senior members, when we were deciding where we would meet for services, we didn't want to meet at such a far place that it would put an undue burden on some of the older members of the shul. Singularly accepted from that concern was Bob Torgow, because everyone was just, marveling over how fit he was, how physically fit, great tennis player, played competitively in local tournaments, did very well, and his tennis prowess was pretty well known throughout the community. So it was pretty much a consensus that if anyone could hoof it a little further, it was definitely Bob. For many years, Bob had been a fixture at our Shabbos or Yom Tov tables, or the times he came over to take our kids out to lunch, to dinner, or just some other outing. One of the best perks, as Michael actually alluded to earlier, of having Bob as a guest, as I'm assuming many others here know, I know for a fact some know, was his Erev Shabbos or Erev Yom Tov personal delivery of his amazing carved brownies and vanilla ice cream.
What?
For those who unfortunately may not have ever enjoyed these desserts, you definitely were missing out on something. Truly, truly some of the best brownies you'll ever taste in your life. And it seems impossible that just 6 weeks ago we enjoyed our queer Seudah with Bob and his girlfriend Dorothy. And even though he was weakened by the chemo, he still made the effort to make a batch of the brownies. And he apologized not for having ice cream because it was too much energy that he didn't have to make the ice cream. I was going through a bunch of older emails between myself and Bob, and I wanted to share a couple of them with you, pretty funny ones. I found a great one from February 8th, 2008. So the background to this email was, at the time I was the shul president, I was also responsible for sending out the weekly emails on Friday. So Bob and Bonnie emailed me saying that they were all of a sudden not getting shul emails for the second consecutive week. And they asked me to check into it. So I wrote Bob that what I thought had happened was I had recently merged a lot of multiple email addresses from within the same families and accidentally must have deleted his email address, which was the one they were receiving shul emails into, by mistake. So here is Bob's reply. Adam, what I believe you did was somehow drop the numeral 1 in our email address. Please check and correct and get us back on the shul mailing list. Remember, brownies and ice cream lie in the balance. I was prioritized immediately with that in jeopardy. I remember when Bob started offering to take the kids out for pizza at John's in Boca many years ago. And Cynthia and I initially, when he made these offers, we were wondering, whether he was really serious, is he going to follow up, he's going to call like he said he would. And sure enough, he always followed through. He made it abundantly clear, however, that Cynthia and I were not invited. It was just the kids, we were on our own. In light of what has been said already, following along with the generosity, kindness, and thoughtfulness that Bob personified, there was one time he was at our house for Shabbos lunch, and I happened to mention that part of the next day's activities for me was going to be looking for a new computer for Tzippi because hers had broken. And Saturday night, get a call from Bob. He said, I just got a new computer myself. I had literally not thought about what to do with the old one, but if you need it temporarily or longer, and it works for you, please take it. So next day, came over, picked it up, and when I told him that it was actually up and running and at great speed and everything to our liking, he could not have been happier. You could really tell that he was very genuinely happy. Bob often spoke about his fondness of a city called Sarnia, which a lot of the Detroiters obviously know of. That's in southwestern Ontario, across from Port Huron, Michigan. It's a place that Bob used to take a lot of his grandchildren to in summer months on vacation. Excuse me. And many times he offered to take our kids, he offered to have them come up by themselves, and they would have the time of their lives. And it's ironic that this coming summer, God willing, we were actually as serious as we had ever been about trying to take him up on it. So we're very sorry that we did not do that sooner. But it wasn't just lip service that Bob gave to these offers. He really, really meant it, and very sincere. If he made an offer, it was an ironclad offer you could count on. Bob, as has also been said, Bob genuinely and truly loved this shul, but the most thing that he loved most here were the young families and the children. Several years ago, despite having, thank God, a very rapidly growing family of their own, they took the decision to start coming back after the summer before the high holidays and to spend it here. He loved davening here. Another thing that Bob always told me he loved doing was, in more recent years after Bonnie's passing, was his solo drives to and from Michigan. He, especially in his brand new Taurus, that was like a very comfortable ride, he said. And he used to tell me how he just enjoyed seeing the country, and he wasn't in a rush, 3 days, sometimes 4 days, all solo, but just really enjoyed taking his time and kind of taking it in. Here's another email from Bob, this one from August 9th, 2009. The background to this one is that I had emailed Bob and Bonnie to wish them a Mazal Tov on the birth of a great-grandson. And here I asked him how everything went with the bris, etc. So here's Bob's response. Hi, Adam. The bris went just fine last Friday morning. There were 200 to 300 people there. The baby's name is Moshe. This is the third one for them, but the first great-grandchild named after Bonnie's father. I cannot believe that Gary is now the grandfather of 5 grandchildren. Oy vey, is he getting old. Thank God, not me or Bonnie. And I suppose that, when you put it into proper perspective, Bob's life was filled with very simple things. He liked to take kids for pizza. He liked to daven in a nice shul. He liked to drive through the country. But no pretentiousness, no putting on airs, no two-facedness. Very sincere, very genuine all the time. Always had a smile for everyone he met and a compassionate word. As the calendar falls out, I just want to conclude with one thing. 5 years ago tomorrow, April 26, 2012, was the date on which we moved into this building, April 26th. And actually, I think for the first time, the first Shabbos we were in here was Chazri Mitzvah, which is davening the Shabbos. It was also the third of Iyar, I'm pretty sure, which actually is Bo Bayom this coming Shabbos. So I think it's just kind of one of these confluences of these dates and just coincidences that we, gather to honor someone who was so instrumental in making the shul possible. In the history of the shul, we've had a lot of members, thank God, who have been very generous as far as their dedication to different items and things in the shul. And obviously, in their own right, each and every one of these things is very special to the donors. And this is literally hot off the press, but I wanted to announce that in his, pulling it together pretty well at this point, right? As fitting a dedication, as I think there's really ever been in the shul, I want to announce, Gary Torgow asked me to announce it, that the Torgow family is going to be dedicating the teen minyan room in memory of Bonnie and Bob Torgow. This is just really an amazingly appropriate dedication. Bob davened with the teen minyan from its inception. He used to email me, the Shabbos, the first Shabbos will be back from Michigan. He used to email me the last Shabbos before he was going away again. Always used to email in between, asking how things were going, what's going on with the kids. So it's very, incredibly fitting that we announced that the Torgow family is going to dedicate that room. With a little bit of luck and a little bit of work, they're hoping that it might be able to be done before the end of the school year, because this is the last group of teens that Bob davened with, and some of them won't be here next year, they'll be off of school or Israel. So if it can be done, we'd love to see that done. And I think, as everyone has said, very rare that you meet someone who's just so genuine and so special, with no pretentiousness at all. And really, we're better off for having them.
Yes.
I think that everything that We do have one more speaker who was actually on the schedule, but she gave her original speech over to Esther to speak. No, you were going to read Malcolm, but anyway, we're going to do it. But please, yeah,
This is going to be short. Yes, this is going to be very, 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 very short. Dorothy, I know you're listening and you're watching. And what you didn't know, my dear, is that, you know, those ducks that you adopted, the ones that came by the house every day at a certain time. When you weren't there one day, Bob and I decided that we will hatch the ducks. What we're planning, what we're going to do with your ducks, and maybe we'll get their eggs out of them. So, this is something that showed you how funny Bob was. This was during one of the times that after chemo, I was trying to get his mind off of all of that and more. What was very amazing, when he went for his biopsy, Dorothy and I were sitting outside of the consultation. Finally, the doctor showed up and we were very sad. He kind of like hinted. So we figured, well, you know, Bob would be very upset. So we both walked in very gingerly into the room. And there was Bob, sitting there, flirting with the nurse. Dorothy. So I said, Bob, come on, you can't. Then, now we just saw the manliness in him. Now, he just got out of surgery. And, oh, I don't want a wheelchair. I'm going to walk. I said, no, you will not. He will drag you out of here if I have to, but you will get in the wheelchair. He didn't want her to see him in the wheelchair and all of that. But I says, come on, you'll be manly in the wheelchair. So he went out of that. But even in all of his merriness, there was a reality to that. And he held me, and I was at one point in time, it was myself and Dorothy, he called us in, I was holding hands. And he basically told us what we knew was behind the laughter, and he gave it to me. I mean, he asked me a pointed question. I couldn't answer. I refused to answer. I made a pause. And then he continued on. And from there on, he was happy. He was relaxed. He was just happy, fake happy. But he was relaxed and very upset. In my line of work, I have seen a lot of people as they get to that end of life. And to get to that level sometimes is very, very difficult. And that's usually someone who's actualized just all the things that they set out in life to do. And someone who's come really, really full circle to actually, at your end of life, to sit there. And you know what? As they say, I'm happy with my lot. And he was happy with his lot. And he smiled. Literally smiled. And thereafter, you know, I did the things that they were going to him, and I'll say to him, I'm getting ready to leave, you must smile. And he knew it's not a fake smile, a real one. But he was contented, and he was happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just conclude with one final thought. One of the, I guess, themes that we extracted from the things which we've heard about Bob is the genuine happiness, the simchas hachayim, the joy of life, enjoying life, and just enjoying the people that were around him. Yes, the ladies, but the men too. And that is it's an important lesson to take with us. That one of the ways that we honor a person who is no longer with us is by emulating the way that they were. And only to speak of the positive, I think that it would be a beautiful thing if everybody were able to take a little bit of Bob with them. The genuine joy, the smiling, the happiness, the love for people, the ability to find the best in people, to think positively. Even the last time that I saw Bob, which was a little before Aaron saw him, because Aaron saw him the following morning before he left. But Bob essentially shared with me what Yael just said, which is like, "Melachti asuya, my work is done. I'm going to Michigan. I'm not coming back. But who knows? It's in God's hands. It's in God's hands." And that's one thing which we didn't emphasize enough. I think. And so I want to conclude with that when a person knows that ultimately where I'm heading and what my future holds is in God's hands, I think that when it comes to the point of transition that Yael was mentioning, but even earlier, a person, if you have such an attitude, if any of us is blessed to have such an attitude, to say that whatever's going to happen, whatever's going to be, it should be good, but it's in God's hands, then hopefully when that time comes that Yael was just talking about in life, that it should be one of an ease of transition, because a person recognizes, I've done my part, I've done my mission, I fulfilled what I was sent to this earth to do, and it is in God's hands. If we can have such an approach and recognize that God is really carrying us, for each of us in our own way, but I think that would be a benefit to us all, and not just in terms of our own experience, but through our own ability to carry a little of Bob Torgow with us in wherever life takes us. Thank you, and thank you all for coming and for joining with us this afternoon.